In a world brimming with complexity, few creatures embody harmony like the honeybee. With tireless precision, she dances from bloom to bloom, each motion guided by millennia upon millennia of instinct, each act in service to the whole. And then there are the beekeepers, watchful stewards of this ancient symbiosis. Part agri-scientist, part poet, they move along their hives with the efficiency of Moe, Larry, and Curly, tending to the bees' needs as best they can comprehend, and with the infrequency of a waterfall in the Sahara, sometimes running off, flapping and flailing like a penguin on a hot sidewalk. This is their journey.
Welcome to Bee Love Beekeeping, presented by Man Lake. We are so fortunate to have today's guest, Debbie Seib, President of the American Beekeeping Federation. We'll be discussing everything from adulterated and fraudulent honey to varroa and trophy mites, basically anything and everything that's important to today's beekeeping. Also, hey, I just wanted to mention that last night I saw the first episode of National Geographic's new Secrets of the Bees documentary series, and I must say the videography is beautiful and amazing, especially being able to see many things from the perspective of actually being inside the hive. Highly recommended. Give it a look and let me know what you think. And speaking of inside the hive, great segue, huh? Let's take a minute for our very own Inside the Hive feature, which is brought to us every week by Primal Bee. Here is something amazing about honeybees. The temperature inside the brood nest has to be exactly 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 35 degrees Celsius. Not about or close to 95, not maybe in the area, but exactly 95 degrees. Baby bees developing inside their cells are incredibly sensitive. Drop the temperature just a few degrees and you start seeing problems. Wings don't form right, shorter lifespans. Bees that can't learn navigation as well, which means they get lost on foraging flights and never come home. Drop it a few more degrees and a lot of them don't even make it out of the cell at all. So the colony pays whatever cost it takes to keep that temperature in the right range. In cold weather, nurse bees press their bodies against capped brood cells and vibrate their flight muscles to generate heat. They are living space heaters. In hot weather, they fan and spread water to bring the temperatures back down. This effort runs around the clock, and it's one of the biggest energy drains, or as we like to say, energy bills, in the whole hive. In the wild, bees choose nesting spots with thick walls that hold temperature naturally. The less work they have to do to hit 95 degrees, the more energy they have for everything else. Making honey, raising brood, fighting off problems. In beekeeping, thermodynamics really do matter. I'd like to welcome our very special guest today, Debbie Seib. How are you, Debbie?
Great. Nice to see you.
Coming to us from the very, very cold Indiana right now.
Yes.
I know you've had some crazy storms out there this winter. We're going to be talking about everything from ABF, because you're the new president, congratulations,
Thank you.
to your own beekeeping business and your own love of bees and a little bit of everything in between. Where do you want to start?
Well, I could start with introduction.
I would love that. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name is Debbie Seib. I am co-owner of Seib's Fisher Honey, and I am currently the new president for the American Beekeeping Federation. I got started in bees about 37 years ago, about 39, when I met my husband, and he was a beekeeper. So on one of our dates, he said, let's go get into some beehives. And I turned it in and said, "Are you crazy?" But I did fall in love with them. They're very cool. I like the little creatures. I have went through a transition of where when I first started, I wore a full suit, gloves, hat, veil, and it was the old hot cotton ones, to graduating to a ventilated suit and then graduating to a ventilated jacket. And that was a big thrill for me many years ago. Yeah, so that's pretty much how I got into beekeeping.
How are you with gloves?
I use gloves all the time. I always use gloves. Yeah.
We've talked about this, it seems like a lot recently. PPE, I don't want anybody to feel like they are not the coolest beekeeper around if they're decked out from head to toe. I think everybody should be comfortable, and if that means just a jacket, or if that means just a veil, or if it means head to toe and thick leather gloves, good for you. There's no shame, and there's also no prizes for some of the people on YouTube that are trying to look like they can wrangle any kind of bees they want with perfect hair and makeup and everything else.
Yeah, I do not look like this when I'm in the beehives. I will tell you that. But I will also tell you, this is the fun fact that you will know and a lot of people are shocked at. I've never been stung by a honeybee. And after doing it for 39 years, I get the eyebrow raised just like what you did. Basically is because I love my bees. I'm very comfortable with them. I can go out there and I have no problem getting into the hives. I can pop them open. I can help my husband do splits. I cannot raise queens. I'm not very good at that because I don't have the eyesight for it. I wear a jacket with hat that has the veil on it, the fencing veil, and I wear gloves. They're not heavy, but they're heavy enough to where I'm comfortable to not get stung. I don't have heart palpitations when I go out there because I'm suited. I wear jeans, of course, and when it's really hot, I wear a short sleeve T-shirt underneath my jacket. That is why I do that, because I've tried once before not doing it, and I got about halfway down to the apiary, and I could hardly breathe. And I'm like, why am I doing this to impress somebody else who's not even here? So, yeah, I'm very comfortable. I love my bees.
Good for you. Sounds like they love you too. If you ever get down to Texas or Southern California or Arizona where they have Africanized bees, hopefully you still won't ever have a sting. We'll see.
Well, I have some friends that were around Africanized bees, and they suited up and they had 2-layer gloves on and said they still got stung. So I'm not sure if I want to try it, but someday I may.
Well, I want to hear a little bit about your beekeeping business first.
So I will tell you that we grew from having just 10 hives to around 150 to 200, depending on the time of year. Sometimes we get up to 250 or 3 because we split our hives and sell off nukes. We have 8 different apiaries. We do pollination, but we keep all our pollination in the state of Indiana. We've never taken our bees outside. So some of them, when my husband lived in Kentucky, originated down there. Of course, those bees are gone now, but they did come up into Indiana. They were inspected and then came up to Indiana, but we don't take them outside for pollination or anything like that. We sell honey. We sell hive products. We have people that stop by our home to get our hive products and our honey. So we're pretty just all around beekeeping. We are a Man Lake dealer, so we sell equipment. So once a year, we would do what was called the Newbie Day. We would bring new beekeepers to our home, and we would do about 2 hours education session, and then we would take them out. We would do a round robin. So we would teach them about different types of equipment, show them how to put it together, do some hands-on. And then the third part was we take them out and do a hive inspection. Basically, what we're looking for is a couple things. First of all, are they really interested? And are they so scared that this is really just not a hobby for them to get into? Because I hate getting somebody started into it, and then a couple years later, you see all their equipment on Facebook Marketplace or, being sold somewhere. And I'd really like not to do that. But so far, we've had really good luck because all of the people going through our school are still beekeepers.
Oh, that's really good. That education really makes a difference. I have a friend who got started in beekeeping, and I had no idea that he was doing it. And after his second season, I ran into him at another place, doesn't matter. And he said, "Oh, yeah, I tried that beekeeping. Didn't work for me. All we did is we got one jar of honey and all the bees died." And I'm like, I didn't even know where to start because, the education is just such an important part to being not only successful, but dealing with loss when loss happens. So you're not just giving up. And I like to ask people, what is your why? Why are you getting into it? If it's only for the honey and that's all you care about, I tell people to go to the store and buy some.
Yeah, interesting. One of the slides that we have in our education class was talking about why are you getting into beekeeping? Is it because love of the bees? Do you want to see and help with pollination? Is it to make money? And if it's to make money, you're probably in the wrong business, unless you want to go really big. So those are things that you need to know before you get started. Most beekeepers that start out, if you don't get them past their third year, they will stop being beekeeping. And so a couple pieces of advice we always tell them is find a local club. That is key. Get around other people that are excited about beekeeping. Find a mentor. Some people say that they will educate, but they will not mentor. And that's great. Other people are great mentors. The biggest thing is just have somebody that works with you, that works your same schedule. So if you're an on 12 hours and off 12 hours, you need somebody else that can do that as well. And then somebody that's like you. So for instance, if you're someone who wants to get the bees, but you want to kind of joke around a little bit, you need a mentor that's going to do that. Because if you've got a mentor that's just, let's just do this and this and this, that's not going to be as much fun for you or them. So you can make it work. You can always make beekeeping work. And I challenge everybody out there, you can do it.
What's the fun part for you?
Oh, wow. Spring. Spring, when you start seeing these hives start busting out and the queens are laying again and the bees are out. Today, you cannot see it, but it is snowing here. Yesterday, we had 70-degree weather. So I always say our bees are so confused right now. But yesterday, I was standing out in the yard and I could see the bees going in and out. It was really cool. That's the fun part for me. It's making sure that the fun part is to see hives that made it through the winter. All the things that you do, no matter what, that they made it through the winter. That's the fun part.
Let's talk about spring for a minute. We all know that is a time that if we're not careful, those bees are actually going to starve. And it is heartbreaking if they make it through winter and then come March, they starve out. So, would you just tell me some of the things that you and your husband do this time of year? And this is being recorded in the second half of March 2026. What kinds of things do you do as far as varroa and food? And I don't know when it's time for splits in your area, but kind of run us through some of that.
Gosh, let me start with the things that you ask and hope I don't forget any. Actually, our spring starts in the fall because if you don't have enough food on the bees in the fall, they're not going to make it to winter. And if they make it through winter, they may not make it through the springtime when you have cold and hot days. You have to make sure that the food source is close enough to them because bees will move up in a ball, as you know. So if you have a small frame, if you have a 10 deep, 10 wide, and you've got 2 deep boxes on it, they'll go up. So once they go up, if it's not warm enough to them go to the side, they keep going up. And at some point, if you don't have food on the top, that's when they start starving. And that can happen anywhere in March when it starts warming up and they start getting more active and they need food and yet nothing's out there. So that's one thing that we want to make sure of is that we have enough food on it in the fall. But we do, on a warm day, we'll go out and pop the top, or we will, if it's too cold, we'll lift the back just to see if we feel like there's enough weight on there that they've still got food in there. We don't use candy boards, but we do something that's more like an igloo. We take, we'll make an igloo of sugar, and we'll put that in there. So it does a couple things. First of all, the bees will go up into the sugar, and they'll eat from the inside. That sugar will absorb moisture, so it does the second thing, but it gives them food if they get a warm day, but they can't, it's not warm enough for them to go outside of the hive. They can actually have some food source. We put in things like additives, Honeybee Healthy. We use some supplements from Micro.
Hive Alive?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so we put that in there as well to make sure that they're healthy, because healthy bees make good bees. Basically, if they're not healthy, it doesn't matter. So that's a couple things that we do. And then the other thing you ask is what do we do for treatments? This past summer, you hear all these new treatments that are coming out, and are they good or are they bad? Or are they working or are they not? So we wanted to do some tests. So with 8 different apiaries, we can do tests on different ones and see which ones works, which ones didn't work. And the ones that worked, we didn't have any that didn't work. If you follow the directions, I just can't say that enough. Follow the directions. We use oxalic acid. We rotate. So sometimes we use oxalic acid and sometimes we use other, but we check. And that's the key. If you're going to treat, you have to check. Was it effective? Because if it wasn't effective, then you need to treat again. And so that's something too, is make sure your mite counts are low, or as low as you can possibly get them. You certainly do not want, 10. You don't want to do a mite count of 10. And then looking at other pests and diseases, it's not just the varroa. You need to look, have they already spread some of the diseases? Do you have other pests in there you need to keep down? A lot of that is just keeping a healthy hive. So we had one hive this year. Actually, there was 3 of them in a row. They were just overridden by yellow jackets. And yellow jackets in a healthy hive usually do not kill the hive, but the inner cover, inside the frames was just full of yellow jackets, and it was a dead out. So when we got to looking around, we're like, oh, something's going on here. There was a yellow jacket nest right next to the hive in the ground, and it was huge. So those are things, other pests can also bother them. Scratching on the side says you've either got, raccoons or something like that trying to get in the hives. So in the spring, we want to make sure we've got healthy hives. We've got a healthy environment for them. On warm days, we do go check them as much as we can. If it's going to be cold, we don't want to break the cluster. But those are things we do to try to keep them alive in the March timeframe, because it is devastating. We don't count our losses. We personally don't count our losses till the beginning of April. But it's devastating to go out. Let's say you go out in February and you've got 90% of your hives have made it, and you're like, woohoo, I only have a 10% loss. This is great. And then you go out in April and you see now you're at 50%. It's sad, and it is devastating to see that. People come to me and say, hey, Debbie, what did you think about this treatment? Or what would you recommend? I don't recommend a brand either. I don't think that's right, and I don't think it's fair. I will tell them my experience with each one, and I can't give them an experience if I haven't tried it. So,
Well, and one thing that we learned, especially last year, is that we need to rotate treatments.
right.
Something that worked 3 years ago may not work this year. There may be a resistance built up, or there may be something else going on. If we were naming brands, we would never say there's one end-all be-all for everything varroa, because there isn't. Just doesn't work that way.
Right.
I wish it were that simple.
Yeah, if something worked that well, I've had people tell me they've never lost their hives for varroa. They don't have mites. If that were really true, then that person would be a multi-billionaire, because everybody would be doing what they're doing. So, and that's right. When something that works really well this year, you need to rotate so they don't get resistant.
When do you do splits in your area? And I know it's weather dependent. This year with all the snow, it may be later than usual, but give me an idea of average.
Ours is usually in May. We wait until we know that we have purple-eyed drones. Purple-eyed drones are drones that when you open up the cell, they've got purple eyes so far, because that means they'll be sexually mature when your splits are occurring and you're having to graft for queens. You're grafting for queens, you have to get them mated. And if you don't have good drones, then you can't mate them. So that's when we do splits. And again, everything is weather dependent. We've done them as early as April before because the weather was just great. But I don't know. This weather this year, we're going to hold off. Yeah.
You should come out here to the Rocky Mountains because I live in a high mountain valley, 5,700 feet elevation. And we've had hardly any snow at all this year, and it is supposed to get into the upper 70s this week.
Wow.
It's crazy, but there's nothing in bloom yet. So I have to make sure those foragers that are going out and burning up all those calories that they have something to eat when they get back home.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we're a little concerned about that. It's such a different year.
Well, that is one of the things that hurt some of the hives that were in sheds this year is it just didn't get cold like it was supposed to. So,
Let's talk about ABF. When did you get started with ABF and why?
15 years ago, I went to my first ABF. I was encouraged to go by someone who is in our state association and said, "Oh, you got to go. You're just going to love this." And I'm like, "Okay, we'll go." I'm not real big on all those sessions and going to session after session with something, I got to have something fun in between. Because you have to remember, I was not the original beekeeper. I was the married into beekeeper. So I went, my husband wanted to go. He was pretty excited about it. And that's how I got into it. I got into it more on the more level when I was walking by and Michael North was standing outside of a door. And Michael North is, part of ABF. And he said, "Are you from Indiana?" And I said, "Well, I am," because I had a little name tag on. And he said, "Oh, you have to come in here to the state delegates assembly." And I said, "I have no idea what that is." And he said, "We'll let you know, so come on in."
I admit a pet peeve of mine is that it seems all beehives are white. Yeah, boring old white. And just when I get a pet peeve, Man Lake comes to the rescue with their new color collection. The vibrant new line of colorful beekeeping hive kits designed to turn your backyard into a buzzing work of art. Each kit comes completely assembled, ready to add to your bee yard, but with a big splash of personality. We're talking dandelion yellow, garden green, coneflower blue, and even bold wild rose pink. Because who says a beehive has to be plain old boring white? Imagine stepping into your bee yard and seeing a rainbow of thriving hives, each one buzzing with life, producing golden homegrown honey. And right now, Man Lake is offering podcast listeners 10% off color collection hive kits. Visit manlakeltd.com and use the code SHOWMETHECOLOR at checkout. That's manlakeltd.com, discount code SHOWMETHECOLOR. Every calorie a colony spends fighting a drafty hive is a calorie that doesn't end up in your harvest. Primal Bee builds insulated hives so your bees can spend less time on heating and cooling chores and more time making honey. Better insulation means better harvests. If you want to give Primal Beehives a try, I've arranged a 10% discount just for Bee Love listeners. Click on over to primalbee.com/BeeLove and use discount code BeeLove, that's all one word, at checkout. That's primalbee.com/BeeLove and use code BeeLove at checkout.
That kind of hooked me. Unfortunately, that kind of hooked me. And then I went back every year. I went back to see friends I would never get to see if I didn't go there. And I went back to see the first time I went, I did the Kids and Bees thing. And I got all these ideas that I took back to Indiana. And I said, "Oh, you guys, we got to do this for the kids." And the auctions, oh my gosh, they always say women get crazy at auctions. Let me tell you, those men get like that too. But yeah, so that's how I got in it, and I absorbed everything. So, of course, once you go and you do that and you experience all the things about ABF at their conference, you're going to go again. And then you get more hooked into ABF and you want to get involved and you want to help out on committees and you just realize all the stuff that we do and you want to be a part of that.
So I'm sure most commercial beekeepers know who and what ABF is. If somebody is a hobbyist out there, is this something they should get involved with? What can it do for them?
So absolutely, ABF represents all levels. We represent small scale, which would be hobbyists. We represent sideliners, which are the people that are hopefully growing into commercial beekeepers. And we represent our commercial beekeepers as well at all levels. So a lot of people think that we only do things for commercials, but about 10 years ago, I want to say, there was a bill going through Congress, and one of the bills said that they wanted us to put added sugar onto our labels for honey. That meant everybody. That meant everybody who was selling anything at a farmer's market had to put added sugar. Well, of course, if you add sugar onto your label, no one's going to want to buy that because they think it's adulterated honey and you've done something to it. And why would I buy that? So we fought that.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Oh, go
it's
ahead.
also not true.
It's true. It's not true.
You're not adding sugar.
Right.
So, sorry, keep going.
No, you're absolutely right. So those are some of the things. That's a small piece of what we do. The other thing that we do is we are constantly trying to get bills and research money passed when we go to Congress, when we go to Washington every year, and that helps small and small scale beekeepers as well. You have some beekeepers that say, I don't want to treat, I want to be treatment free, I want to be all natural, and that's great. I have no problem against that. But I will tell you that if every hive was able to sustain by doing that, then we wouldn't have the problems that we have. And so what ABF does for the small beekeepers is we help with some of the research. And if you think about it, this is how this trickles down. What we do for commercial beekeepers helps commercial beekeepers stay in business. And commercial beekeepers are where you get your hives from if you're a small scale or if you're a sideliner. And small scale can grow their own, but they normally, especially when they get started, will get them from either a sideliner or a commercial. So all of that works to where we need all levels. And as a small-scale beekeeper, the other things we do for small-scale beekeepers is we put out a quarterly magazine. That quarterly magazine tells you a lot of different things that are in your area, things that are state delegates, things are about a conference that are specifically for small-scale beekeepers. We have workshops at our conference, and these workshops are things that commercial beekeepers probably won't do anymore, like make lip balms and things like that, but render wax. But small scale does, and they need to know how to do that. Someone needs to teach them. So that's what we do for them as well. And we do a state delegates assembly, which takes information back of what's going on in the industry, and they take that back to all their states. We have 87 of them. So each of the states are mainly a small scale, and that's how they get the information back from ABF as well. So we do absolutely a lot. We have a monthly e-buzz that goes out, electronic. We have a lot of people that small-scale beekeepers can contact us. They can say, hey, we need a speaker. Can you help us out here? Myself and some of my other people on the board have went to talk to a lot of the state associations at small scale. So there's just a lot of things we do.
What are some of the really pressing issues right now that you're lobbying for, or either laws that you're seeing that may be a problem or laws that we need?
Wow, there are a lot of things that are hurting our industry right now. The first thing is that we are losing way too many bees. We cannot sustain the loss last year that we had. Over 70% of our bees were lost last year. There's disputing whether it was 70% or 60%. Even if it dropped to 50%, it's way too many. And if you took any other industry that lost that much in production, they'd be screaming all over the place and you'd have lots of money thrown at them. And yet beekeeping, we just can't get that. We need research on some of the pests and diseases that we have, and we need to put more research out there. The second big thing that's just really hurting a lot of our commercial beekeepers is fraudulent honey. We've got honey dumping going on from out of country. We've got fraudulent honey. We've got what we call fake honey is actually lots of different things. Number one, it could be blended, where if it's blended, it says it's 100% when it's really not. The other is mislabeling. Right now, a big thing for consumers is to say something organic. If I say it's organic, you'll pay double price for it because you think it's better. So when you see in a store anywhere where it says organic honey, and you read the label and it says USDA grade A organic honey, you automatically know one thing: that's imported. It's imported because we do not have a standard in the United States for organic honey, and we're not allowed to label our honey like that. So we're not allowed to partake in the additional price increase that we could get for organic honey. And in addition to that, it's false advertising because as a consumer, if I'm not a beekeeper and I don't know that, I think I'm getting a very good local product from the U.S. that's really healthy for me. And that may not be the case. So that's one thing that's hurting our industry a lot. Fake honey, the anti-dumping, the dumping that's going on right now with things that are not really honey. Other countries have that issue as well. It's not just the U.S. So they're trying to clean up their act as we're trying to clean up ours. So we've got a lot of collaboration going on between us and Europe right now, which I'm very excited to see. The other thing that we have is a lot of our research funds are drying up. As you know, right now, they've got lots of tightening of belts, and I understand that. But why are we not tightening the belt somewhere else and still helping food source that is going to be a food security issue if we don't keep our bees alive? And that's basically the thing. If we can't keep our bees alive, we can't make honey. If we can't make honey, then the beekeepers can't stay in business. It's just it seems like it's so simple, but yet people really make it complicated. The other thing that we have a huge issue on is we don't have a standard of identity of honey. And I'm shocked about that. I'm a farm girl that's very black and white. And it says, if it's not from a honeybee, it's not honey. And if you put something else in it, it's not honey. So stop calling it that. And yet, we don't have that standard of identity. So we have worked with some of our senators, some of our congressmen. We've got a couple bills out there, and we're trying to get them passed, but we're not making a whole lot of headway right now. We keep pushing for it, and we're going to keep pushing for it. But just so you know, that's a huge issue for us. That's some of the big ones. The biggest one, I guess I would say, too, number one, is we need to raise the awareness. We need to raise the awareness of the issues that the beekeepers are having about the honeybees that are dying every year and about adulterated honey. Though that's a huge thing. Just get that awareness out there. But I will tell you one of the in my mind, again, my opinion is the biggest issue we have is ourselves as beekeepers. That seems kind of funny, but basically what happens is we can't work together. We just can't seem to play in the same sandbox without throwing sand in somebody's eyes. And until we learn to do that much better than what we are now, we are only hurting ourselves. We can't continue to divide. And one of the things that we need to do is we need to learn that when we go to Congress, we need to go to Congress as one entity and one voice and one industry. We are so small footprint. They just gnat us off like flies. And we need to be able to grow together, and we just don't seem to be able to do that yet. If you go out to Facebook, what I notice, because I see some of the small scale or the newbies, the new beginner ones, they're so nice. They ask a question, you got like 20 people helping them out and giving them ideas. And, well, this is how I do it. May not be the only way. The higher up you go, it is vicious. Someone asks a question and you've got 20 people just knocking them down. And I'm like, yeah, that's not really helping us any. So I will tell you, in my opinion, that's one of our big issues is ourselves. People don't like to hear that.
No, I appreciate you bringing all that up. I mean, that's a lot to deal with. And we appreciate you and the whole group doing something about it. The whole organic thing, I think some beekeepers just don't know. Because I've seen at local farmers markets honey with an organic label on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they're trying to be deceptive. I think they go, well, I'm treatment free, therefore it's organic. Well,
right.
Half a mile from you is a field being bombed with whatever, kind of chemicals. And that's a big deal. And I think probably some people, when you were talking about organic, we're saying, well, wait a minute. I go to Costco and there's honey with an organic label on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because it's not from here, right?
It'll say USDA grade A organic honey, and you flip it over. One of the things I will tell you, a mantra is know where your honey comes from and know what's in it. You flip it over and it'll say from Argentina, China, Brazil. I'm not knocking those countries. But if you think you're getting U.S. organic honey, you're not. Think about even in order for you to have organic, bees fly anywhere from debatable 2 to 4 miles in any direction. So in order for you to guarantee that bee didn't get anything that had not been sprayed or treated. You would have to be a beehive in the middle of like thousands and thousands of acres. One beehive. So you can't be producing all this honey if that's the case.
And you couldn't have a stream running through all those acres that came from somewhere else that may have gotten a little chemicals in it or something
Or
else.
they found an orchard and the orchard blooms were about done, and so now they've been sprayed for, because orchards do have to spray. It's not a bad thing, but they do
Sure.
have to spray to keep the worms out, because you won't buy an apple with a worm in it. So it's kind of a catch-22 that your bee went over and flew on and then came back. So that's why people, when they say organic, I try not to say much, but my husband says, Debbie, your face says it all, because I kind of chuckle and walk on by.
The thing that I tell everybody if they're going out to buy honey, so non-beekeepers, is get to know the beekeeper. Farmers markets are great because you can talk to them and you can say, gee, where do you keep your bees? What kind of treatment do you use? Now, non-beekeepers probably won't even understand that answer. But if the answer is, well, we use this and this and this, then you know they're using chemicals. If it is we don't use anything, you know they're not, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, the more questions you ask, the better decisions that you can make. So be careful and look at labels carefully. And yes, USDA doesn't mean it was grown in the US.
Correct. Yeah.
I noticed that you missed some other things that I assumed you were going to talk about, like trophy mites and yellow-legged hornets.
Yeah, we do have a lot of invasive. We have a lot of pests that are here already that are invasive, like varroa. Varroa's been here for many years, and we don't seem to have enough research to get rid of it. We can knock it down. We knock the levels down. But remember, it's usually not the varroa mites that kill the bees. It's the viruses that they vector. So when you're looking at your hive, that's why I said you need to look in the fall. You need to look in before the mites got in there and multiplied and passed all those viruses in there. The other thing was the yellow-legged hornet. Florida, Georgia, North Carolina now. It just seems to be spreading further and further. And I've heard people say, well, I think we've eradicated it here. It's not eradicated till it's all gone everywhere, because it's like varroa. It just moves. It started out in Florida, moved up to the Minnesota, and then it just went from there. They've tried in the past things like burning hives, isolating hives for treatment, and that just doesn't work. We have to go after something that's going to kill the mites. And like I said, what the treatments are that we have right now, knock them down, but they don't really kill them. So that's another thing that we'd like, is speedier ways to get any kind of mite treatment through the process. Yellow-legged hornets, the same way. You can put out century hives. Those are things that are being done right now. Interestingly enough, APHIS is one of the groups that monitors invasive species. But APHIS cannot really do anything until after the species is in the United States. So one of the projects that I was on, I know it seems kind of silly, one of the projects I was on, I went to Thailand with Jeff Williams and his group and 10 apiary inspectors. Eye-opening when I saw trophy mites over there. It was more than eye-opening. It was shocking and gravely concerning. Number one, they're very, very fast, and they multiply every 24 hours. So varroa takes, I'm going to go back and say 16 days, 18 days. Oh, well, they go inside the drones for 18 days. But trophy mites will go every 24 hours. They'll reproduce. So interestingly enough, if they ever got here, if we don't have some kind of plan, we will be in really bad trouble. Now, again, APHIS can't get involved until they're here. Well, that's kind of a catch-22. So I will tell you that APHIS has actually worked on having a plan in place. So it's not like they're just sitting back and going, okay, we're going to wait and see when they get here and then we'll come up with something. They have a plan in place. A lot of the states have a plan in place. Most of the states cannot or will not share that plan with you. I will tell you for a fact that if you come up with something that is going to detrimentally destroy a commercial beekeeper's business, then you're going to have less involvement for them. They're not going to be as willing to help you out. That's just a livelihood. So when they decided with varroa, they were down in Texas and they decided they were going to isolate. And this, again, was many years ago. There were hundreds of thousands of colonies that were lost down there because they would not let them move out of Texas and there was no forage for them. So they starved. And so a lot of commercial beekeepers will now say, I'll be honest with you, I'll tell you, but okay, I have a mortgage, a car payment, I have food to buy, I have kids to feed. You have to kind of look at that way. So we need something in place before they get here. And my whole point was we need to do research and we need to do something that will stop them, not just wait until they get here and our plan is going to be do this or do that.
I couldn't agree more. And we don't want to be reactive like how Australia was with varroa. And no offense, we have a lot of listeners in Australia and love Australia. But the way that whole thing went down, where all they did was they freaked out and burned hundreds of thousands of hives and then kept sending hives out all over the country for pollination, it just didn't work. We just need a better plan so that we don't get in that kind of situation. We are just about out of time, and I told you I wouldn't take too much time today. So I want to end with something fun. I want to hear your wild and crazy beekeeping story.
Oh, wow. I will tell you, and I still see it today in my mind. We were in the hives, and I had my jacket zipped up, thought I had my helmet zipped onto my jacket, and it was not. And I'm down in this hive, and it's in the spring, and so there's a lot of bees in there, and they're coming out. And I look, and there's a bee inside my veil. So I do talks with people who are linemen, like who climb poles and things like that. And I teach them what not to do if you come across a hive. Beehive, wasp's nest, doesn't matter. And I tell them, worst thing you can do is panic. And you jump in your truck, and there's 3 or 4 bees flying around, and then you jump out of your truck, and there's hundreds because you panicked. Don't do that. Just, calmly get in your truck. If there's 3 or 4, take the hit or try to get them down, but don't go swatting. So what did I do?
Human nature took over.
I ran around the truck screaming, there's a bee in my suit. And my husband and I threw off my veil, and my husband kept saying, stop running. So I have to tell you, in my mind, it happened yesterday. It was many years ago, but it happened yesterday. I'll never forget that.
Sometimes it's a little bit hard to tell whether the bee is outside the veil or inside the veil. And the secret is, you don't want to have to learn this, if you can see the underside of the bee, like the legs, it's outside. If you're seeing the back of the bee and its wings, time to panic.
The other thing is, if you just tilt your head up, it'll go toward the sun or to the light, and then you can lift it up and it'll go away. I knew how I got down there. I'd pulled my jacket down too far, but boy, I laugh about it today, but I still remember it like it was yesterday. If you don't mind, I know you're about out of time, but I would like to, we didn't really talk about ABF that much. And I would like to share that ABF does some other things for not only beekeepers, but researchers. We have 4 scholarships that we give out. We are involved with 4-H essay contest right now. Deadline is May 1st. So I would love for people to go out to our website and take a look at all the things that we do out there. We have research, the latest research we put out there every month. It's just a great way for you to know everything we do. And if you have any questions, certainly feel free to contact us.
Fantastic. And what link should they go to find your website?
It's abfnet.org.
That'll be in the show notes too, in case you forget. Debbie Seib, thank you so much for being with me today.
Well, thank you, Eric, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again for joining us on Bee Love Beekeeping, presented by Man Lake. Another big thank you goes to Vita Bee Health for their support. Vita's Varroa control range of products includes Apistan, Epigard, and now Varoxan, extended release oxalic acid strips. Hey, thanks a lot, guys. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to and follow the show, tell your friends about it, and click on over to belovebeekeeping.com to sign up for our free newsletter. If you have a guest suggestion or topic you'd like discussed on the show, shoot me an email, eric@belovebeekeeping.com. And remember, if you're not just in it for the honey or the money, you're in it for the love. See you next week.